We've been in the topic, very light stuff here. We're actually speaking about, Brendan likes that. We're speaking about the world to come. We're speaking about the world to come. Now, why is that significant? Because we're promised that every single member of Yisrael will have a place in the world to come. Now, why is that so important to know about the world to come? Well, one reason is that we believe that there's a destination to life. That life is not just, let's wake up and just make the best of it. Have a good day, another dollar, made it through the day, watch my favorite episode of something on Netflix, more or less I'm paying my bills, and I'm doing well. We explained many times, the Gemara says that there are these Babylonians, and they call them the foolish Babylonians, the Tipshin, the foolish Babylonians. Why are they called fools? Because it says that they eat bread. Why do they eat bread, Andrew? So that they should have energy, right? Why do they need energy? So they can go plant wheat kernels in order to grow bread. To do what with the bread? You guessed it, eat it. And then they should have energy through eating it to do what? To plant more bread and then eat the bread. And then why? To plant more bread and then eat the bread and then, you know how long that goes on for? 120 years, you guessed it. And there's a trip to the Bahamas somewhere in the middle there. And the Gemara says these are fools because they're just going through life without any purpose. So we know there's a purpose. The purpose is to get to a destination. Okay, that destination is called the world to come. Now, yeah, your question? Oh, so far so good? We're all good? It's all on the table here. We're not hiding anything. We're not going to even pull any rabbits out of hats. Just everything straight on the table. Oh, by the way, I didn't mention, yesterday we did a video that somebody lost something, and we said that if you do a certain formula of Amar Binyamin, everyone is like they're blind until Hashem opens their eyes and gives tzedakah. Reb Meir, we didn't mention yesterday, Reb Meir, Balanes, Rabbi Meir, his name is Meir, it means light. He's the one that brings light. It says that Rabbi Meir would illuminate the eyes of the other Torah scholars with his halachas. He saw everything with so much light they could almost not even paskin like him. But just as a follow-up to the one who did that yesterday, so how long did it take after you did the Amar Meir, Amar Binyamin?
About an hour and 7
minutes. Okay,
minutes.
an hour and 7 minutes. Yeah, come on, Yitzi. Like that.
My handouts and my notebook.
Something was very concerning for a while, and you lost it, missing it, number of, and yeah, Baruch Hashem. So this goes to people who lost their anything that you might have lost. There's a formula.
You lost your marbles?
If you lost your marbles also. And the same is brought down in the Sfarim HaKadoshim. Yeah, there's hope. The same is brought down in the Sfarim, in the holy books, that when a person is dating and he's looking for his wife, so it says that your wife is like a part of you. Just like Eve was separated from Adam and was like a lost object. Now, we don't mean that women are objects, obviously. We mean that there's a lost part of your soul that you're going to look for. So you could also think about that, Sam, when you do this. That things that have become lost to you, that you just can't see, you don't know where they are, but they're here. They're just somehow you can't see it right now. So you just have to have your eyes opened up, like happened to Meshullam yesterday within an hour and 7 minutes. Okay? I don't mean that in an hour and 7 minutes you're going to make l'chaim with your fiance, but that's all. It is possible to have that. It just has to be done in a healthy way. Okay, so in this topic of the world to come, we mentioned yesterday that sadly there are 6 things that actually pull a person away from the world to come, God forbid. Lo aleinu. Anyone remember what those are? Yeah.
I don't believe that Tris Mason is from the
Beautiful. Not believing in the resurrection.
The other one was being an Apikoros.
Apikoros, that's right.
I forgot which one.
We explain Apikoros is like the Rambam says, it comes from the language of Hefker. A person says the Torah is Hefker. The Rav says it himself is Hefker. He doesn't take importance in who he is as a person. He's mafkir himself. We said that a person who says that the Torah is not from Shemayim, that's a big problem. Or he says that everything is from Shemayim except for one word, that Moshe wrote that little thing. typo and just put something in there. That's a problem. Also, a person who reads what we said, the Sifrei Chitzonim, which is essentially books that take a person away from God consciousness. And then we mentioned at the end of yesterday a person who does an interesting thing where he has a wound and he whispers a certain verse from the Torah on the wound in order to heal the wound. A wound is a cut, or he whispers something onto the cut, essentially a verse from the Torah that says that God is the healer and that God will not bring any of the afflictions to Klal Yisrael, only into the Mitzrim, only onto the Egyptians, and God will be the healer. And he thinks that means literally. And we explained that it means spiritually that God will heal. And the last one we didn't mention is Abba Shol Omer. We're still in the Mishnah, you can look inside. Abba Shol Omer, Afa Hoiges Hashem Ba'osi Yosef. A person who says God's name the way that it's written. Like, what's so bad about that? I thought it's godly. Now, first of all, just what does that mean? There's discussion if that means God's four-letter name, a Yud and a Hey and a Vav and a Hey. That's why we don't ever say it. And I do implore anybody who might be watching this that J's, don't say it, witnesses, should be very careful.
Yeah.
Don't say it.
Yeah.
Okay?
I heard them
Just don't say it. Don't say, oh, you mean.
Yeah.
Just don't say it, okay? Someone might describe later what I'm talking about, but that is not, that might even be, oh, okay, good, fine. Yeah. It's saying a Yud and a Hey and a Vav and a Hey, so be very careful with that.
They shouted on buses too. I was on a bus once, and they were screaming out what they think the name of God was, and it was very. I talked to my friends wow, that's really scary.
Yeah.
Oh,
So God makes things happen for all sorts of reasons that you should expose yourself to something. Yeah. And it could be that they're going to get a merit now, that we now give an example of the severity of it. Now you're going to be able to tell, and that they helped other people not to do such a thing. Okay, you never know how God maneuvers things. Okay, that is one opinion. There's another opinion that's talking about God's 42-letter name. Now you might say, I never even heard of that one. The 42-letter name is based on, it's a section, it's a poem, tefillah called Ana B'Koyach. We say it in Kabbalat Shabbat. Ana B'Koyach Gedulas Yemincha. It's the Reb Shlomo version. That's very nice. Da 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 da, ya da 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 da, da 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 da. So, besides the fact that it's a very lovely melody, it happens to be one of the deepest names of God, one of the most secret names of God, that's hinted to in the first letter. Ana, it's an aleph. Bekoach, it's a beis. Gedulas, that's a gimel. It doesn't continue like that. It's not just like the aleph beis, 42.
It's just twice.
Yeah. It's Ana Bekoach, Gedulas, Yemincha, Tatir, Tzuro, Yud, and a Sav, and a Tzadi. If you look in your Siddur, you actually see the letters on the side of Ana B'Koyach, and usually it says in the bottom of the Siddur. The letters on the left column are a deeply mystical, Kabbalistic formula. You may gaze at the letters and think about them in your mind, but don't say them aloud. Something like that. It's like almost a verbatim quote of Art Skill.
It's almost like you wrote it.
Yeah.
What happened with the 42 letters?
So there's one, by the way, that was one of the names that there were certain people who went against this and would carve that name into them, some spooky stuff in the Gemara, and they could fly using that name. They could do different miracles using that name, and that name is be very careful. But it's a name that allows for basically the manipulation of all of nature and all that type of stuff. Now you might say, isn't that cool? Shouldn't we do that? Wouldn't it be great? Like, just, I'd like to fly. You know, why get a COVID test within 72 hours? I'd rather just use that name and just fly. Slow down, cool the jets, not so fast. Be very careful. So, someone who says this name. Now, you might say, why is that so severe? Why is that such a big problem to say these names? So let me give you one answer. The Torah says that the way that God is a totally spiritual essence. God's names are referring to his spiritual essence. God's not physical. He is constantly creating physicality, and he's coming into physicality and giving life to physicality. You can't say this is God, because this is finite. It has a beginning, it has an end, it has dimension. God is beyond finite. The name Yud and Hey Vav and Hey, which is the name, refers to God as beyond space and time, because Yud Kei Vav Kei means Haya Hay V'Yeh. He was, he is, and he forever will be. Now, you ever think about that before? Imagine God always being. It's enough to get your mind pulsating. I hope it's not too early in the morning for you guys still. However, that same God that always was.
Not the Gesher kids. We've been away for
Yeah, that's right. Baruch Hashem. We love the most.
Yeah, of course.
And Yeh, that same God that always was. Now, all of a sudden, your mind is out of time because always was. That's also a mathematical impossibility because something can't always be in time because time is finite. So you can't always be in time. Understand what I'm saying? Because it was this time and not that time, and like time has gradients. There's no timeline that has a zero in the middle, negative infinity on one side, and positive infinity on the other side. That line is a mathematical impossibility. It cannot exist because you have a line of points on a line that can't be. The very concept of it negates infinity. So God is above the entire system. So forget time. What's time? So that's what we're thinking about when we're saying Yud Kei Vav Kei. But how do you pronounce Yud Kei Vav Kei? Do we actually say Yud and a Hey and a Vav and a Hey? No, we say Aleph, Dalet, Nun, Yud. Right? Adni, Adoy, and then Noi. What does that mean? My master. Adnus means a king, a master. Because the way that God is, he is Yud Kei Vav Kei. We're referring, he's not that. He's beyond that, but that's referring me to what God is. What he is, we don't know, but that's referring me to something infinite. So somebody who pronounces that name in this world, you think that this world is that? You admit you're completely out of touch with reality. So in this world, we only say Aleph, Dalet, Nun, Yud. You're the master, but you think Yud Kei Vav Kei. That's very deep. You say Aleph, Dalet, Nun, Yud, but you think Yud Kei Vav Kei, which basically means, God, I see you down here. You are the master down here, like a king. But somehow there's a secret that you do fill this world, but I can't say it because I don't see it that way yet. In the world to come, God's name that we say will also be Yud Kei Vav Kei. Yeah, that's cool. You know who actually could say Yud Kei Vav Kei? The Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur, because he left this world the way we know it. It's important to know that. He would say it. Because he was beyond this world. So now, a person who starts saying these names, you're basically saying that this is the end of the story. This is it. We must have gotten to the end that we know we see every God the way he is. So what is a person systematically doing, God forbid? He's pulling himself out of the world to come because he's saying this must be the end of the story. Yeah? Clear? Just don't do it yet.
It seems like a lot of the things that make people not having share of the world to come is the denying of the existence of the world to come.
Very good. So that brings us, we finished those 6 points. That brings, let me tell you Maharal. You don't have this here, but I would put it on the side of your Gemara. The Maharal brings down, he delineates why each of these 6 points exactly are an antithesis, a bizarro world, if you will, of the world to come.
It's in the
So it's the Maharal. If you look up Tiferes Yisrael, the Maharal Prague, I'll give you some homework, Sam. The Maharal, it's not in there.
I found out last week that he's
Is your Zaidi? The Maharal Prague?
Great. It's cool.
Wow. So holy. That's great. Now you really have to look this up.
Yeah.
So the Maharal Prague, good thing, like when I say these things, put them on the side of your Gemara in your work booklets that you can refer back to it, you can look up the sources later. So the Maharal Prague says in Tiferes Yisrael Perek Tesvav. The Maharal has many books, one of them is called Tiferes Yisrael, in the 15th chapter. He's going through these topics, and he explains why each one of these things is exactly the antithesis of the world to come. Okay? So he explains, first with a general concept. What's the concept? I'm going to read some. It's a known thing that when a person wants to achieve a certain level in consciousness, so the first thing is you have to be ready for that level of consciousness. There's a saying in the world, when the student is ready, the teacher arrives. You heard that one before? It's like a martial arts one. Then your sensei doesn't show up until you've, and all of a sudden, sensei. Yeah, because now you're ready. Meaning you're only able to achieve a level when you're ready to receive those teachings. If you're not ready to receive those teachings, then it's not appropriate. Like, would it be appropriate if somebody who came to yeshiva the first day, let's just throw you into, Rav Asher Shir Namir in Yiddish. So he doesn't have the vessels to receive it. He's not going to relate to it. It's too high. That level is not appropriate for him, right? We understand that. Like, you don't put somebody in a high power position in a company to be the executive accountant when he never went to business school. It's not the appropriate position. He doesn't know how to do the job. Okay? So the Maharal explains that anything in life is like that. If you don't have the ability for that level, then it's not appropriate that you should be able to receive the light, the experience of that level. Now, if the level is just above you, then it is appropriate. It's just like the gym. That's the best example. When the guy goes to the gym, you don't give him like these little tiny little weights. If all he can do is the tiny weights, you give him the Schwarzenegger weights on the first day, what's going to happen to the guy? Squish him. God forbid, injure him. So you give him the little weights, and then he starts getting bigger and more jacked and whatever. Okay? That's a technical term. And then he grows little by little. That's how it goes. So too in life. Says the Maharal though, if you don't achieve a level until you're ready for it, certainly you're not going to achieve a level if you're against it. Okay? If you're against ever becoming the accountant for that firm, certainly you're not going to have that position. If you didn't go to business school but you want it so badly, but it's not the job for you. So you're not even going to get it if you're not good for it. But even if you want it, what if you don't even want it? Not only that, you want to sabotage that job. I'm sorry, I don't think it's the position for you. Yeah, no, give it to me. I'm going to sabotage that position. I'm sorry, this is not the position for you. So the Maharal explains, a person who not only is not fitting for a position, but wants to sabotage it, is completely against the concept that it stands for, certainly will not achieve that level. That's how he's going to explain every one of these things we mentioned. A person, not only are they not fitting for the world to come, they're trying to sabotage it. So for example, he says that there's no Tchias HaMesim from the Torah. So what does he expect is going to happen? He's sabotaging the belief in resurrection. He's against it. How are now you going to have the ability to be resurrected? Yeah.
So isn't that some whether or not he believes it's going to happen, if it's happening, it's happening. Whether or not he thinks it's happening. Right? So,
Yeah, but how's he going to be a part of it?
So
We're talking about someone being a part of it, being in the action.
Doesn't that imply that it's like, it is just a belief in it that makes it happen? That's
For you to be a part of it.
See, if it's reality, it's reality. It's the first we believe.
Reality for those that believe in it.
So it's
Oh, fine, it's going to happen, but it's not going to be his part. It's like that position is going to get filled in the executive accountant, just not with him.
But if they believe like, oh, I just die and I become a tree, and there's going to be a tree in the world to come.
So some things are delineated. These are the very things they're literally that God set up a system where He said, I've created ways to get to the world to come, and there's certain things that are the antithesis of it. Specifically, total rejection of it. Or He says that the Torah is not from Shemayim. So the whole power of the world to come and the whole power of resurrection is found in the Torah. He's rejecting the very thing that would resurrect him. He's rejecting the very thing that would give him eternal life. It's exactly that thing.
which is the Torah.
Yeah. Because all you have in the world to come is your Torah. That's what you live off in the world to come. It says your mitzvahs are like your clothing that allow you to receive the light of Torah. But the stuff, the food, so to speak, of the world to come is your Torah. Like the verse says, Ki hi chayecha v'oyrech yamecha. Like we say in davening, Ki hem chayenu v'oyrech yameinu. This is our very life. And the length of our days is going to give. So he rejects the very thing that's going to give him life. How are you going to get life in it? You completely reject it. It can only be life-giving if you accept that it's giving you life. Person saying he's talking to his, I want to save you. I want to give you life. No. I'm not. I don't want to take your CPR. I'm really offering to save your life right now.
Let me die.
You're rejecting the very thing that's going to save you. And Hashem set it up that there's free will. It's free will. This all points to the amazing power of free will, that we believe in free will. That's probably the most quintessential part of you. Free will. It's very, very important to know that. And then he says, not because. How far does that have to, is that such a chiddush? The person who denies God and denies the world to come, or he makes himself hefker, like nothing matters. So then if nothing matters, then how do I give you an everlasting life? You made everything into nothing. And then we said those that are learning those Sfarim, those books, they're not really Sfarim, books that are taking a person off. All of Olam Haba is about going on a path towards God. Now he's veering, he wants to get away. You can do tshuva at any point. And the Maharal goes on to explain the same thing with, the person says the name. That's what we explain. And he brings the pasuk, Zeh Shmi La'olam. This is my name forever. And La'olam is written without a vav. Anyone know how you write? You say the word, what's it? La'olam, Zeh Shmi La'olam. This is my name forever. La'olam means forever. But this sounds probably like another word. What's olam? World, right? But how do you say hidden? Helem. Helem. This is written without a vav. It should be Zeh Shmi Le'olam, forever. But it's missing. And it says Helem. This is the root of Ayin Lam and Mem. Ayin Lam and Mem mean hidden. Which means God is saying, Zeh Shmi, this is my name, to hide it. You have to hide my real name. You're only going to be revealed that name in the world to come. In this world, you can only think of it. Don't think this is the end of the story. This world. It's a much longer story than you think.
What about the person who says the Torah's from heaven except for this word of Moses?
So the problem with that is he's saying that I've got another source of information. That God was flawed. There's a flaw in the system. He's not perfect, which means that now God's not infinite and perfect. Now you might think, no, it's only one thing. As soon as one thing is taken out, it breaks perfection. and God is perfect and totally good. As soon as there's one, that's already a complete denial. Okay, my dear friends, this is we're starting to sink our teeth in to some real sugias here. Next time, we're going to finish the Mishnah. It's going to mention 7 people that sadly are not in a good place. And then the Gemara is going to go on and explain proofs of the world to come in the Torah. It's going to describe very, very strong anti-heretic information of how to deal with those that deny God's existence. Then it's going to go on to explain, basically for a number of pages, the era of Mashiach. Okay, it should come speedily in our days. Amen.
Amen.
Kol Tuv.